So this is the second video in a series called Food Truths. And what I'm trying to do is just to educate people on some simple things that can improve your overall health. It's not about weight loss, it's not about trendy things going on, on social media or in research. It's about things that have been proven anecdotally in the past, that research is showing it's true right now, and things that I think will continue to be true in the future. So this video is going to be about high blood glucose and high insulin. It can be a complex process, but simply put, it's when your body has too many carbs or sugars. Sugars are a type of carbs, and this raises your blood sugars. So to stabilize that, your body produces insulin to help your body grab those sugars and put them into cells. And this becomes a big problem when it becomes a chronic thing. And when you're constantly raising your blood sugars and raising your insulin, you're going to run into problems like obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and even some types of cancers. There was even an interesting study done that was looking at osteoarthritis, and it found that osteoarthritis was more strongly associated with high blood glucose, hypertension, and hypercholesterolemia, more so than just BMI. Meaning that osteoarthritis is a chronic inflammation and more of a metabolic thing. One of the mechanisms that happens when these blood sugars chronically rise, keep rising and rising, is your body has to keep producing insulin. And over time, your body becomes less sensitive to insulin and it has to produce even more and more and more insulin. There's some emerging research showing that actually it's this insulin that's causing a lot of the medical problems that we see. It's analogous to alcohol. If you don't drink much and you have a couple of beers, you're going to feel a good buzz and maybe stop at 2 or 3 beers. Whereas if you're having 3 or 4 IPAs a day, your body's going to need more alcohol to get that buzz or drunk feeling that some people may be going for. So your body adapts by needing more alcohol to get there. And insulin's the same way. Over time, your body's going to adapt by needing more insulin. So whether you're looking just to improve your overall health, feel better, prevent diseases, or even get out of pain, eating foods that don't constantly spike your blood glucose will achieve those results. And so like everything, it's a big continuum. On one side of the continuum, you have the ketogenic diet, where these people are trying to keep their carbs below like 30 grams of carbs a day. And then on the other end, you have typical Western diet of, starting off with a sugary cereal, eating a white bread sandwich with chips, and then coming home and having, hamburgers and fries. Those are all simple carbs that are gonna spike your blood glucose. In this video, I'm not saying everybody should be keto or low carb. I don't think that's sustainable at all. The purpose of this video is just to understand what's gonna spike your blood glucose and how to manage that. So I think there's 5 things you should keep in mind to try to avoid spiking your blood glucose. So one way to avoid this spike in your blood glucose is to choose the right carbs. Generally, you want to eat more complex carbs, like fruits, vegetables, and beans, and avoid the simple carbs, the sugars and the processed foods. One way people will do this is they'll just look up either the glycemic index or the glycemic load. For example, if you're having oatmeal and you wanted to add something sweet into it, you could either add dates and look at the glycemic load of that, or you could add maple syrup and look at the glycemic load of that. That number will give you an indication of how high that food is going to spike your blood glucose. And generally speaking, the whole foods, it's just a date, will spike it less than something that's processed like maple syrup or table sugar. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, you want to avoid the very sugary and refined grains. One easy way to do this is something I often do is when you're at the store and you're buying something, look on the nutritional facts and see how much sugar is in it, see how much added sugar is in it. And you'll be surprised. A lot of companies are just putting a ton of added sugar in it to make it taste good so that you get addicted and buy more. Another big thing, I've seen some research that just doing this makes huge differences, is avoiding drinking your sugars. There's studies that show if people just cut out drinking, Cokes and energy drinks and juices, that their blood sugars and their overall health improves drastically. Another thing to keep in mind is that part of the reason why fruits are good is because they contain a lot of fiber. So when you eat a fruit, it takes longer for your body to digest it, which gives your body time to manage that slow leak of the blood glucose. When you drink a juice, like orange juice, you're not getting that fiber. It's just going straight in, and there's going to be a big release of blood glucose. So this is why we don't keep juice in our house. Our kids, we let our kids, of course, have juice boxes occasionally, but it's not a staple in our house for that reason. So another way to avoid having high glucose is to make sure you're having what they call a mixed meal. So that means you're not having a meal with just carbohydrates. You need to add, protein, fat, and fiber into it. And studies show that when you do that, you have much less of a high blood glucose spike. So for breakfast, if you still want to have toast, just add some eggs in there too, so that way you have a little bit more of a mixed meal. Or if you're just going to have oatmeal, maybe you add some protein powder and some chia seeds to get those macronutrients in there. Maybe if you're going to have spaghetti, you make sure you're going to have meatballs and a side salad to get some of that mixed meal. I feel like that's a good strategy because it's not about taking things away. You can still have the foods you like. You just want to add those other components. And just simply by doing that, you decrease your blood sugar. And I found with diet, it's always easier to add things in than to take away. It tends to be more successful in the long run. The third thing you can do is exercise. Exercise both in the acute phase, just going for a walk after dinner, or chronically exercise, making sure you get an hour of exercise a day will help your muscles be able to take that blood glucose in. So essentially, the muscles are doing more work, so your body doesn't need to release insulin to do it. So even just going for a 10-minute walk after dinner will yield very significant results. The fourth thing that can help decrease your blood sugar is meal timing. So if you're eating snacks all day, it's going to keep your body having to release that insulin to manage that blood glucose. Whereas if you're not snacking all day, your body has time to stabilize. This is one of the reasons why intermittent fasting works so well for some people, is because it allows their bodies to restabilize and helps make their body become more sensitive to the insulin. So the fifth thing that can help lower your blood glucose is managing your stress and improving your sleep. Studies show the less you sleep and the more stressed you are, the worse your blood glucose and your insulin response will be. You can look up sleep hygiene and follow some of those things of going to bed and waking up at the same time, trying to get rid of screens, keeping the room cold and dark to try to get the right amount of sleep. Stress, there's a lot of different stress techniques. You can find a counselor or a therapist to talk to. You can do mindfulness techniques. You can do breathing exercises. Exercise in general is wonderful for both of those things. Again, so that goes back to that previous tip, but managing those will help. So managing your blood glucose and your insulin levels will drastically improve your overall health. And this isn't about weight loss either. This is just about preventing disease, improving your quality of life, and moving and feeling better. Diet can be simple, but it's also complex. There's a lot more to this topic, but I think just generally, if you try to avoid constantly spiking your blood glucose, you'll see great results. This is also an area where I feel like the calories in versus calories out method doesn't hold up to it. I mean, there's definitely some truth in that. You don't ever want to overeat and eat more calories than your body is going to burn, get out of energy balance. Someone eating 2,000 calories of a Mediterranean diet for 3 meals a day versus someone eating 2,000 calories of M&Ms every hour, those people are going to have a huge difference in their overall health and how their life pans out. So while yes, it's important to maintain an energy balance of calories in versus calories out, some of these food truths I think will yield a better quality of life and better health. So first, just consider the foods you eat and how they're going to alter your blood glucose. Keep that in mind. And then do the 5 things that will help reduce blood sugar spikes. So pick the right carbs. Make sure you're getting a mixed meal with protein, fat, carbohydrates, and fiber. Exercise. Don't snack all day, and try to give your stomach a break and see if you can do, maybe stop eating at 8 p.m. or earlier if you can. And then 5, try to get good sleep and lower your stress. So what I'm hoping this video will do is more empower you to take one of those tips or 2 of those tips and make small changes. The best change happens slowly over time. You don't need to all of a sudden flip the switch and become a vegetarian. Maybe you just add a 10-minute walk after dinner. Maybe you just add eggs with your toast in the morning. Maybe you go to bed a little bit earlier. I think once you understand blood sugar and can view your diet and the foods you choose through that lens, it'll help improve your health.